Hello, my name is Michelle, and you're listening to Profit is a Choice. On the podcast today is Brenda Thompson, owner and lead designer at HouseLift Design. She's a designer in the metro Atlanta area, and she started it as a second career after 20 years in corporate. Brenda and I on the show today are going to talk about three main topics: transitioning from corporate to being an entrepreneur and all that entails, how she scaled her business from just her to more and realized that she could not do everything, and then how to create a work-life balance. Brenda is open and transparent about her journey, and that makes it such a great discussion. My bet is that each person who listens will find some area of the conversation that resonates with their own journey. I know I certainly saw many parallels with my story. I hope you enjoy the podcast. Every day, empowered entrepreneurs are taking ownership of their company financial health and enjoying the rewards of reduced stress and more creativity. With my background as a financial software developer, owner of multiple businesses in the interior design industry, educator, and speaker, I coach women in the interior design industry to increase their profits, regain ownership of their bottom line, and to have fun again in their business. Welcome to Profit is a Choice. Hey, Brenda, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm excited to talk to you. We've got some fun topics that we want to talk about today. And before we get started with that, I want you to tell us a little bit about your business, how long you've been in business, what you do, who you serve, a little bit of that, so we have an understanding before we jump into the meat and potatoes of our conversation.
Okay, so my business is called HouseLift Design. We do residential interior design. We are a small boutique firm, is what I like to say, and I have a full-time assistant. And we are in the metro Atlanta area, although we have helped clients in different locations through virtual design and so forth. We mainly do residential. We haven't gotten into the commercial marketplace. I'm not sure if we will at some point. And this is our fifth year. We just started our fifth year in business.
And that sounds great. So it's full-time, you and an assistant, correct?
Yes, that is it. And then a team of other people that are not necessarily on payroll, but there are lots of other people that make it happen.
That's right. That support team. We just had Jennifer Smith on the podcast a couple of episodes ago, talking about building her support team, her little board of directors, and who gets a seat at the table. And then we have all these other people that are support people that maybe don't speak into the life of our business, but they certainly support us. You know, your installers, the electricians, your subs, all of those. And so it is very true that none of us could do our business completely by ourselves. Or if we did, it would be extremely tiny, right?
Yes, and I have been there. And it's
I think we all have. I think we've all started where it was us doing everything and just changing hats all day long. So what made you start this business 5 years ago? What prompted you to do this?
So I have always had a love for home design, always going into the model show homes. If there was a new neighborhood being built as I was an adult, I couldn't resist. As a teenager, I was painting furniture in my parents' house. Looking back, I cannot believe they let me do it. When I was probably 11 or 12 years old, and I was painting my bedroom walls and changing things around and rearranging the family room furniture. And my parents, again, I have a 14-year-old, and I'm thinking, I wouldn't let her do that. But my parents did, and that just never left me. Then as I purchased my first home right out of college, I was so excited to be able to design that space, and then my next home and so forth. And I've always just loved it. All of my free time was usually spent doing something home based. And as I graduated college, I went into corporate America and went through that road, and that was awesome. But always on the side, home design has been a part of me and a passion.
Okay. And when you started your company 5 years ago, did you go into it immediately thinking about how I make it profitable, or were you more excited about I get to actually do design full time now? Or was it a combo of both?
I would say it definitely was a combination of both. So I've always had a business. I have a marketing degree, but I spent the first 20 years of my career, which makes me sound really old, in the business world. I graduated with a marketing degree and I went into business, and I found myself in the numbers a lot. So I'm into spreadsheets. I love the analytical side of things. I also have a marketing brain, so I'm a little bit of a funny bird there. But I always cared about profitability and what makes sense. So even when I was working for a Fortune 500 company, I was intricately involved on the sales team and wanting to know how we can, make the most money and that sort of thing and help the company be profitable. So when I started the design business, I wasn't just going to do it as a hobby. And I thought I would just do it part-time. So I was scared, even though I was like, I have the tools in my back pocket to know how to run a business. Although I knew I didn't have all the answers, but I had a lot of experience with helping other business owners. So after I left Fortune 500 company, I left and worked part-time so that I could be home with my young children. And then I ventured into some small business consulting kind of by accident. I knew I had some skills. I met some small business owners and I thought, gosh, I can really help them. And they hired me and it was awesome. So that experience kind of gave me the platform to feel like I can do this. It's just a matter of, can I figure out how to make this field work? I don't know anything about the interior design business itself, but I know general business knowledge. So I definitely wanted to do it for money, not as a hobby, or I could just keep redecorating my own house. But I wasn't exactly sure of the mechanics of the business. So I started doing some research, talking to people. I reached out to a couple of friends who knew interior designers. And I said, do you think I could just sit down and talk with them, buy them lunch, and just ask a few probing questions? And I had several people who were willing to do that for me. And I'm so grateful. And I've tried to pass that along as I am now in the business. I have people reach out to me. I want a job. I want an internship. And so I try to help other people like others have helped me, which I think is really important. So yes, I knew I needed it to be profitable for me to be happy. And now that I'm on my 5th year, if I wasn't making money, I would quit by now, because it's a very hard business to be in. And it's not, I think, what outsiders think it is. I know you and I have talked about that, how the design part of the business is actually a small part of owning this business and running it. And so anyway, yes, I need to make money.
Good. So, all right. So one of the things that I want to dig in with you in the first part of our conversation, because I do think that some who listen to this podcast maybe are working full-time in some other type of job and they're wanting to make this shift. I think I've mentioned before on the podcast, I can't remember, when you've been teaching and talking to people for 20 years in the industry, it's kind of hard to remember where you've said everything. But I remember being working in corporate, and I took some night classes over here at Oglethorpe University down in Atlanta, down in the Buckhead area. I went over there after work because I worked in Buckhead. And I would drive over and take like the adult ed classes, and they were design classes. So how to choose color theory, how to put things together, all that. We put together mood boards. And so it was just adult learning for people that wanted to understand all that. And then I remember sitting down because I was making an awesome income. And I had, at that time, I think I only had one child at home. I know that's true. I only had one child at home. And I looked at what it would take for me to go back to school as an interior designer. And then I looked at what they were making. And back then, the average interior designer was making like $20,000, $25,000 a year. And I'm like, heck to the no. I'm not going to go give up 6 figures so that I can now have to pay for school and come out making $20-something thousand a year. Like that was so upside down to me that I just couldn't even understand why I would do it.
I had the exact same experience. So I sought out, okay, let me see how much money does an interior designer make? And I reached out to a couple of companies and they started telling me, well, out of the gate, this is what you would make. And I thought, yeah, I can't.
I'm not doing that.
Never work.
I would never work.
I'm already,
Right.
past the point where I need more income to support our family and our
Right.
goals. And so I thought, gosh, there has to be a way. I'm not a quitter. I'm really stubborn like that. So
Right.
I thought I have to figure this out if I want to do this.
And in all fairness, I was looking 23, 24 years ago. So, it maybe even 25 years ago. And it was great because one of the girls that I worked with, I'll call her, she was a woman, but we all call each other girls. So one of the women that I was working with loved the same things I did. So we would go on the weekends to the show homes and we would take classes together and we would bring in our latest projects and share them. We're all doing software, but over on the side on our lunch breaks, these are the things we're talking about and doing and researching and sharing our information. And it's funny, she's now in real estate and I'm now on the design side of things, and we both left corporate. But neither of us were willing to just get up and walk out to go pursue this passion that at the time looked like it was not lucrative. And designers weren't on every other block like they are now. It wasn't a growing industry, but all of the independent solopreneurs, it really hadn't kind of burst out yet. And so you pretty much were working in corporate type positions if you even wanted to be a designer, or at least that's what seemed to be available in the job search. And mine wasn't until our company got bought out, and I came home to raise the kids that I started dabbling on the side. And, even for me, and I've shared it before, I didn't walk into the first part thinking I want to make this profitable. I'd already left my corporate job to come home. So I'd already gone from 6 figures to 0. Right? So I wasn't now comparing 6 figures to 25 or 30,000. Right. I was comparing 6 figures to 0. So then when I started working, it was 0 to whatever, right? My perspective shifted. And I remember when I started the business, I think I've told on the story on the podcast, my doorbell rang, a neighbor was standing there. Will you do this for me? I'll pay you. We love what you've done in your home. So it kind of started a little bit, my first business started accidentally. And profitability, while of course I wanted to make money, I couldn't separate. I didn't take the time to separate. It wasn't that I couldn't. I did not take the time to inspect and separate the difference between the money that I was getting for sales and income versus the money that I was actually making, and comparing it with what was going out. But that's a big shift in thinking. I've had quite a few people on the podcast, and you probably could agree with this. It doesn't matter how much corporate you've had. It doesn't matter if you have a business degree in marketing or management or mine's information systems. When it comes down to micromanaging your entire business, there are still holes and gaps and things we don't know to look at. Did you find that experience to be true?
Absolutely. So even though I've worked in different big business segments prior to starting this business, and not saying at all that I knew everything, because there's never a time where you know everything, but I felt like I had a good understanding of business and the mechanics that go into a business. So bringing that into this new venture, the difference, what I did not expect was the weight that comes with owning your own business when you do need it to be profitable, when you do want to be successful, when you are working 7 days a week and sacrificing a lot to try to make it work. That weight has been difficult for me, and because I care so much and I work so hard and I want it to work and I want to make money. And money is not number one, but I am doing this for money. Otherwise, I just do it for a hobby and still love that. So I would say that was the biggest surprise for me, is that losing sleep at night, which is my own, personal things that I have to manage, but the weight of everything is on me. There is no, leave the office at 5 o'clock, and I'm always thinking about the business. And so finding balance in that has been a struggle, but I've gotten better at it, and I've put some boundaries in place and some processes in place that have helped with that over the years. But in the beginning, I did not anticipate or think about the weight that comes along with everything is on me. I'm responsible for everything.
Let's talk about that weight. When I first started my first company, my husband was working corporate. We have the same degree, and he was, working. So he was the main breadwinner, and we could totally live on his salary. it was tight knowing the things that we wanted to do, and our family was growing. So we knew that we were going to have to give up some things for me to be able to stay home and raise the children. And we were willing to do that. But he was certainly able to take care of the needs of our family. And so the weight was different for me, right? So I started it, and there is certainly, so there's weight in different ways. There was the weight of, if I'm going to do this, I want to do it right. I want it to make money for my family. And then there's a shifting weight where you become more of the primary breadwinner. And that happened for us in 2009. My husband's company was bought, and one time the large corporation that bought his company wanted to move us to Poland, and one time they wanted to move us to Germany. And neither of those fit into our family plan. And so he ended up, having to seek out other work. And so he's now sitting at home, unemployed between jobs. And he looks at me in 2009. We remember what that year was. What year was that? That was Hello Recession.
Yeah,
right?
It was hard.
And he says to me, sweet girl, it's on your shoulders now, because you're the one bringing in the income while I'm looking for the next job. And he has the type of jobs that can take 6 to 9 months to find.
Sure.
You just don't walk out at his level, at sea level, and just get the next job. They can take time. So I'm sitting here going, oh, great. I had not anticipated that either. And I don't think I really fully understood the weight that my husband had been carrying that just got shifted. I felt like the boulder just came and sat on me. I don't know if I've ever talked about this on the podcast, but I remember feeling that transfer. I know you felt it too during different seasons. I felt that transfer, and my heart broke for him, for the weight that he had been carrying that I didn't even recognize. And then how flippant in my naivete of looking at my own business, how flippant it must have looked for him to be busting his butt the same way I'm busting mine. He got paid and I gave it away because I didn't know my own value and worth, and how that impacted him through me. And I mean, it just, all of it. I raised my rates in the recession where everybody else was lowering and giving. I raised everything because I had to. And I made more money in the recession than I'd made the year before. It was like opposite, but it was because I had no choice.
Right.
But to do that. Tell me a little bit about how that weight exchange, and then of course the weight we put on ourselves, and then the weight exchange or the transfer where it comes to you.
So I would say for us, we've been married 17 years now. And when we met, I was young, in my 20s, but I have always been a go-getter, and I was climbing the ladder, doing very well, winning awards, going on trips, all these things. So I've always had, working has always been a part of me. So I had started earning a salary. So some of the weight wasn't in our relationship. Most of the weight was what I had established for myself, similar to what you were talking about. I was earning 6 figures. And so the thought of not doing that felt like failure, which is not true.
Right. I agree. It's not true, but it is how it feels.
It's not true, but I thought, gosh, I worked so hard for this. And I really don't want to work for 20,000. Like I want to work, and that's a part of, feeling successful. And again, I'm talking a lot about money, and you know me, and we've had conversations about
it is a profit podcast. So
it is totally right. So, I mean, money is important. I want to work hard and I want to earn money, but money is not primary in my life. So anyway, I don't want that to be taken the wrong way, but
it will become primary if we're working for free and we can't support our family. And I mean, it changes, right?
Yes. My husband and I have, made decisions throughout years. We downsized a couple times based on different shifts in career. So that was something that was hard at first, thinking, gosh, we built this home and home is so important to me. And oh my gosh, the thought of that. And we've done it twice, quite large downsizing with our home. And it's been the best thing that we've ever done. And I talk to many people who are kind of behind me in age who are thinking about, gosh, I'm not really happy, or I'm thinking about doing my own thing, and I just am ready to just cheer them on and say, the size of your home or what, that is not what matters. And the second you make the shift and you feel that freedom of doing what you want to do or living your life the way you want to live it is worth
It's
it.
another release of that weight.
It is. And we have several friends who have just done this, and I tried to, they had already made the decision, and I sent a message and I was like, this was one of the greatest decisions that we ever did before we even knew them. So she wasn't along that ride with us, but part of that downsizing decision that we made, even though initially I thought, oh, this is I don't know how I feel about this. Looking back, it's just been amazing. And we could actually afford a larger home, or, a home of more value, but we're so content and happy. I have no interest in that. I just want to have freedom to do my own thing, and, where we're happy. Like, happiness matters. And if that means pursuing your passion and working hard at it so that you can get where you want to be, and maybe money comes along with that, and maybe it doesn't, maybe your family doesn't require that, and that's fine. Everybody kind of has a different place that they need to be. But I'm a huge advocate for that, because I've lived through it, and we made those, what seemed like hard decisions at the time, which are really not. Like, it's
a trade-off. Am I willing to give up all of this external view of success to feel successful in pursuing my passion?
Yes.
Right? It's a trade-off. So did you make that trend? One of the things you and I were going to talk about today is this transition from corporate into a more creative, passion-filled entrepreneurial journey. Did you feel, Brenda, that there were any other big shifts that you and your husband made together that I don't want to say allowed as if it's given permission, but that allowed you the freedom to follow this passion? And because you also had to have money, let's be honest, if we really want to build these entrepreneurial dreams, yes, you can start them with no money, but they're going to take you a heck of a lot longer to build. So there needs to be some amount of input. Building a website, getting your branding. There are things that need to be done at the beginning. So downsizing, number one, allowed for you to go from 100 plus to nothing and build up. It allowed you the freedom to put some money into. It reduced the amount of expenses monthly that you and your family need. It took, like you said, that weight off that said, go try. Go give it a shot. There's room to breathe without thinking that you are on the edge of losing your house every time you have a bad client or a furniture piece gets damaged. Like, nobody wants to live like that. Were there other changes and choices that you and your family made that provided the freedom for you to move from corporate?
I would say, because I'm not really a risk taker. I'll take calculated risks. So when I decided to start the business, I thought, I'm just going to kind of throw this out there. I created a free Facebook business page at the time. I didn't even set up an Instagram account. I just thought, let me just see. And I started putting some photos out there of our home and saying, I'm interested in this. I'm going to start offering services. People have asked me. I'm doing this thing. My husband has a background in graphic design. He created my logo, so I didn't have to outsource that. He helped me with I didn't have a website in the beginning. I was using Facebook. And what happened was I was still working part-time. So the money was going to be coming to an end because of the situation at the company. I knew that. And I thought, I know I could probably make this work, but this is really putting yourself out there. When you're in a creative space, whether you're an artist or an interior designer or someone who is using their skills in that creative way, it's scary. Even my girlfriend who's a photographer, she's like, when I send out the photographs to a client and I don't hear from them for a day, my heart's thinking, oh my gosh, do they like my work? Do they like what I did? It's the same thing for me. So in the beginning, I thought, let me just put some photos out there and let me just see what happens. And people started responding. And when it started to gain a little traction, I thought, okay, I'm going to go for it. So as my part-time
Testing the waters. I like it.
Yeah. So as my part-time position, I knew was kind of coming to an end. The business was going to be sold. That was all a part of the plan of me coming in to help that company. I thought, let me just see. But I was still putting my resume out there to big job, regular jobs, because I thought, okay, I don't know what's going to happen here. We'll just see. Anyway, it gained some traction. And I will also say that if you have a partner, a spouse, a friend, someone who will support you, that had made all the difference for me. My husband has always, I'm going to get emotional. He's always supported me. He's always told me, babe, whatever it is you want to do it. If we have to sell our house, I don't care. We just want to be happy.
I've got one of those. I'm married to one of those guys.
And I know everyone doesn't have that. And he's always been that way for me. And he's always been like, damn girl, I know you can do it. You just need to believe that you can do it. So he doesn't say damn, but I do. So that was important because I was really scared about what people were going to think, if they were going to respond to my work, if they were going to want to pay me to do it. Gosh, is someone really going to pay me to do this? So once it started gaining a little traction, I had someone that we knew saw my Facebook page because I shared it on my personal page. Hey, I'm going to do this. And she said, oh my gosh, we want our home office. We need our home office done. I'm working from home now. I need a good space. And I thought, okay, I'm going to do this. I knew that I had the skills to do it. I just wasn't exactly sure. What am I going to charge? Where am I going to source the furniture? And in the beginning, I was sourcing from retail because I just was like,
right. It's what we know.
Right. That's all I knew, so I was in a heart. I don't even think there was no real money made on that, even though I charged them money, but the time and
they paid you for your education.
Yes. They paid me for my education. So it was amazing. And then I posted photos. I didn't have a photographer. It was an iPhone. No, we actually used a camera now that I'm thinking of it. Like we set it up on a tripod. My husband was trying to help me and it was a whole thing. And so they're not actually very good photos compared to what I try to do now. But then people saw that. And then the next person that knew me, it was a connection, but they were and it happened. And I still, looking back, I'm like, I can't believe, which I don't really doubt my skills, but I'm like, I can't believe I've actually built this into a legitimate, profitable business. And I have not done it on my own. I've had incredible support from my husband, my friend group, my peer group. You've played an important role in helping me shift things along the way. And so it has taken a village to get me where I am, and I do not take that for granted. And also the clients who trust me to perform work in their home and make their home what they want it to be. Like I feel so grateful that I get to do this. And I try to remind myself of that on days where nothing is going right. And there are plenty of those where I'm just beating my head up against a wall. And I have had days where I've thought, why am I even doing this? I have fewer of those days now. I feel a lot more balanced, but those days have been there, and there have been quite a few of them as this business has progressed. And that's why the support system is so needed when you're going to do something like this, because it is hard. Right. It is really hard.
So you moved from part-time, we'll call it still corporate consulting, and doing the design part-time. And then when that gig ended, you went in full-time. I know you and I met we're in 2019. We met in the fall of 17, so 2 years ago. And you had just started coming into it, or had just been in it full-time, I think that year. So this is like your third full year full-time, right? And when you called me, you were certainly profitable. You had, and I'm just gonna give you like high fives here, because the girl had spreadsheets.
Oh, I have spreadsheets, guys.
You got spreadsheets. Your spreadsheets have spreadsheets. And that's not always what I get. I do certainly get some of those, for people that are very analytical and they've done a lot of that work. You had broken things down, but you kind of had, I hope you're okay with me sharing, you had kind of hit that wall of, I know what I know, and I don't know what I don't know. So
Yes.
look in here and tell me what it is I'm missing. As
Yep.
I read the other day, you can't read the outside of the bottle from inside of the bottle.
That's good.
And it was one of those, Michelle, I
What
want
is
to
going
talk,
on here?
look in and tell me, because I'm here at A and I need to get to B and I need to know how to get from A to B. And I've exhausted my knowledge and resources to this point, and it's got you to a great point, but I think there's more. I think this could be more. Our family situation has shifted again. You were giving your husband the freedom to search
Yeah.
out and do some of his passion, which then again was that weight that I mentioned that Joel
Yeah.
had that shifted to me. Some of that weight shifted to you for his transition
Yeah.
period. And you were like, okay, move me up, help me get to the next place. And that moves us kind of into one of the conversations that we're going to have now. So that move from corporate to getting started. And one of the things was to grow where you got to grow, sweet Brenda. You cannot keep doing everything by yourself. Like, we can't keep hobbling this together. And so, not that you weren't hobbling together, but like your husband trying to get a tripod set up,
I
trying to
know.
take a picture.
Yes.
And we
Right.
have all done that. So I want any
And
listener to know we're not
I think
slamming
you
it.
have to in the beginning,
Yes,
right? Like
yes.
you
It's
have to.
bootstrapping.
Yeah.
You just have to bootstrap it. There is a great book by Mike Michalowicz. We'll link it in the show notes, called Toilet Paper Entrepreneur. And it's kind of that bootstrap mentality of how do I get things cheap, free, low cost to enter. But you can't, and you always want to have kind of that mentality so you're not paying for something you don't need to pay for, hence the profit first piece. But at the same time, there is an investment that needs to be made to grow, right? You don't just grow without investing time, effort, energy, money, resources, all of that. And so that was the conversation that we started having back in fall of 17. And
So I'd love to give you a plug because it was very difficult for me to decide to hire someone at your level, at your rate, because I was lean and mean. And I thought, okay, I have to seek outside help. I have been trying to figure out how to take this to the next level. And I feel like I'm smart enough and can figure this out. And I have not been able to do it. And I thought, I'm going to take a risk, which is what I felt like, not necessarily risking myself on you, but I thought I'm going to take a risk with an expense here.
right, because it's not inexpensive to hire a full,
To
a
hire
coach
someone
like
who's
that.
qualified. I wasn't just looking for, let's go have coffee and tell me what you think I should do. Like, I wanted some very specific, I had my questions down. I knew exactly where I wanted to go. Like you said, I have the spreadsheets.
You were a little intense at that first call.
So intense.
You're like, okay, this is all the money I have to spend and I need answers. Boom.
Yes, I know it was, and I'm intense. So I just thought, oh my gosh. So I immediately went to my husband. I knew what he was going to say, but I went to him and I said, I feel like this is what I have to do to figure out if I can move this needle that I want to move. And he was like, do it. He always says, do it. He's not over here worrying and thinking, he's awesome. And he's like, then do it. And if it doesn't work out, and it's not anything about you, but he's like, if you can't get where you need to be, he's like, you're putting that pressure on yourself, A. But B, you have to try things. And if we need to spend the money, because it is our family money, there's no secret pot of money to just throw at things. I said, okay, I'm going to do it. I think like she's the best fit for me. And it has been one of the best decisions I've made in my business. You were able to actually help me shift. I was not in a good frame of mind either, which I know you remember that. I was like, here's the thing. This is kind of do or die for me. Either things can shift because I'm working my butt off and the numbers are not where I want them to be. And you were like, your numbers aren't bad. And I'm like, they're not good enough for me based on, what I can go back to corporate and I can make more money for less work.
You felt like there was the potential that had been unreached.
Yes, that's a great way to say it. So anyway, that was a huge change for me. So that was one of my first outsourcing things, I would say. Like I said, I need someone else with intricate knowledge of this business. And one of the things, there's tons of business coaches out there. And I thought, I have business knowledge, but I don't have the interior design business knowledge. So I've been, figuring things out as I go, but I want a coach who knows this business because I feel like I have very specific questions and needs and things that I want to do. And I felt like that was important. So I started searching. Okay. And of course you came up and you were in Georgia and I was like, what? This is perfect. And we started talking and then I decided to and here we are 2 years later and I can't let you go. So that was one thing. And then I thought, okay, this photography piece, photographers are expensive. People are, I would go online and say, oh my gosh, how much does an interior design photographer cost? And there's ginormous ranges of costs. I thought, okay, this is something that I feel like it's stressing me out to have to be the one responsible for the photos on the job day. It's not my gift. So I decided to outsource that. And I love my photographer. Bookkeeping. I love analytical things. Like my go-to is a spreadsheet. When I want to just feel in control, which sounds psycho, but it's my thing.
Oh, girl, I get you. Numbers and spreadsheets are my love language. I'm good.
Yeah. So I still do my own bookkeeping, but I do have a CPA, and my bookkeeping, it's just one of my love things that when on a Saturday afternoon, sometimes I'm in there balancing the checkbook like a weirdo. But, and then I decided to hire an assistant part-time. That was the second very scary move for me because I felt a responsibility to be able to pay them. I don't want to hire someone and then tell them, oh crap, a month in, I can't pay you. Like I was like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to commit to this person, even if they were 1099 a couple days a week. But I really wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to put them in a position, a negative position. And so that was a huge thing. And that all worked out great. And I was, trying to be careful about who I hired. And you and I were talking through, what is it I want this person to do? What role can this person play to try to not spread myself too thin? And how much do you pay this person?
And how do you get ready to bring the person on?
Yes,
and how are you ready to manage them? Because now you're moving into the role of manager. One of the things I remember from our first couple of meetings in 2017, I do remember the frenetic, you were almost in a place that was like, I don't have a choice but to make this work.
Yes.
And I'm going to give it some amount of time. And again, not that it wasn't working, but it wasn't working at the level that you wanted and needed it to. And you felt like there was more that you could do and you just hadn't quite broken out of where you were. So I don't want to make it sound, you certainly weren't crawling to me. I've had plenty of those. I help those too, but that's just not where you were. But I think you might remember one of the conversations, some of the first conversations we had was you were very intense at telling me what you thought. And I can handle intensity. My sons say that I'm very intense. And so I try very hard to not be so intense. I think I'm a cut up. My husband thinks I'm funny.
I think I'm funny too.
I think I'm funny, but I can totally be intense. So I get it. And I understood there was a passion behind. It was passion, and it was love for the business, and it was love for what you were doing and wanting it to benefit your family because you were in a position where it had to benefit the family, right? Yes. This wasn't a play thing for you on the side.
Right.
But I remember you wanted to jump immediately into the spreadsheets, as most people do. They send me the financials, they send me their spreadsheets, they send me their numbers, and they think because I'm a coach that focuses on profitability, that's where we're going to go. And I didn't. And instead, I started tell me why you think that. What's made you think that? What's happened that created that way of thinking for you? And I think a lot of times when people first start, they're like, wait, what are you doing? But in all of my teaching and all of my education and training, I always start with mindset. And people are shocked by that. Like even in my Pricing Without Emotion class, the whole first half of the first day is 2 days. The whole first half of the first day is nothing but self-esteem and what are you thinking and what is your value? Because if we can get that settled, we can figure out the numbers, we can figure out the money, we can figure out how to put it out into the world and to your friend group and to your, those that you want to influence. And I remember there having to be a lot of mindset shifts because you were, if I could be honest, and I know that you're cool with this, you had a scarcity outlook.
Yes, absolutely.
You very much kept feeling like, I got to hold on to everything, but I got to let it go, but I got to hold on to, it was this it was creating this fear that just kept feeding itself within you. And I kept saying, wait a minute, Brenda, there's enough. There's enough. Look at this. Look at this. And I think you have done a tremendous job. And we all have this that can come up, right? But you did a tremendous job in shifting that scarcity, which went from, of course, you had plenty at 6, we've downsized, now I'm building back up. So every dollar, everything counts. It has more importance than maybe it did before. And that was why, and I did love your intentionality, like, and your integrity of not wanting to hire and then have to let them go. And so we worked through the numbers.
Yes.
To make sure here's what it takes, not only for you to hire, but for you to sustain. And then the right time, who's the right person. We went through job description. What are you really going to have them do consistently? You remember going through and doing those exercises where I would say, write down everything that you hope you never have to do again. Everything that you'd be happy to hand off so you could do the things that you love and need to do.
And then also a lot
of all that hard work though. And it's not easy work.
And trying to figuring out what are the things that I don't enjoy doing or I shouldn't be doing. And then what skill set is required in the person that I hired to be able to do that well. I am I won't say I'm a recovering perfectionist because I'm definitely not in recovery. I'm still one. So that was also another piece of it was like, okay, but if I'm not doing it, then they're not going to do it exactly the way I would do it, but I have to release it. Right. And I have done that. And now I have an almost full-time assistant. She's about to move to 5 days. And I've done a really good job, I think, for myself of releasing those responsibilities and being happy with someone else doing it because it's giving me that freedom to do the things that I need to be doing or want to be doing.
So, Brenda, just to touch on that for a second, we have beautiful, sweet women who clean our home for us twice a month. And during that 2009 timeframe, 2 things happened. Number one, when my husband came home between jobs, we stopped the house cleaning. And I said to him, I'm going to be off working. You just move this, weighted mantle onto my shoulders. You have to clean the house. The first thing he said when he got the next job was go hire those ladies and bring them back. Mm-hmm. But what's so interesting about that conversation is years ago when we first started hiring people to help us around the house, when I was working full time, which I can make the money faster than I can clean the house, one person. And I was doing a little at a time. They could get it all done in one day or in a few hours, right? And his comment to me at one point was, whoever it was cleaning the house, they don't clean it the way we clean it. They don't clean it as well as we clean it. And I said, sweetie, let me stop. You're comparing the wrong thing. You're comparing them cleaning the house to us cleaning the house. We're not cleaning the house. So you need to compare their cleaning to it not getting done. That's the comparison that needs to be made. Yeah. Don't compare what they're doing to the way we would do it. And he was like, yeah, okay. Meaning sometimes, not that you cannot have high standards, but they're not going to necessarily be exact. Everybody looks at things and sees them important or different. And so that same thing translates into work, which is kind of the lesson that you learned was, if I am comparing the fact of here's what I would do as a marketer with a marketing degree, or here's what I'm doing at this level with what they would do, well, but you're not even getting to it because you have so many other things to do. So we need to compare what they're doing to you doing nothing and saying they're at least getting you one step closer, and then we can work to build them up. And that is a shift.
Even if I was getting to it, I was doing it at 11 p.m. at night. So now I'm not doing it at 11 p.m. at night. So,
right. There's a lot of bonuses, but it's a learning process when you hire like that.
Yes.
Okay. And so now you've gone from corporate to part-time to full-time solo. You've had different 1099 help along the way. Now you have an employee that's about to go completely full-time because the workload now allows for it. And all of that, as you mentioned, moves us into this work-life balance conversation because, doing our social media at 11 at night, doing all of our bookkeeping on a Saturday, working all day the way we do. Before we go there, here's what I want to ask you, because you made this comment a few minutes ago and I made a note of it. When we are on the outside looking into an interior design to the industry, it looks like stinking fun and games. It looks like you get to put on your cute little clothes. You get to have a cute little handbag. You get to have all these beautiful design samples, and nobody ever tells you how heavy those things are.
That's true.
That you literally are sweating and trying to look like you're glistening, or sparkling when you walk in the house. You're hot. The dogs are sniffing and jumping in places they shouldn't be jumping. They don't tell you all of that.
Right.
That's just one part of it. I had a designer tell me the other day that she was interviewing for a position. She was interviewing for an admin support position. And a young designer right in college interviewed for it and asked how much design work she was going to get to do. And the answer was none. It says on here, this is a non-design work position. This is an admin supportive position. She sat and cried in the interview. And my client said to her, you need to stop crying, because even as the principal, I only get 10 to 20% of design. Right. Everything else is what you do to make it work.
Yes.
Right? Okay. So looking into this industry, it looks glamorous. It looks fun. We see the HGTV and the online shows where you just see them popping in and out. You don't see the behind the scenes of the heavy lifting and the work. And that's not even counting the bookkeeping and the marketing. And keeping up with the emails and keeping up with the design trends and going and meeting the vendors and following up on broken pieces and things that were, good night, the amount of work that goes on behind the scenes. It's like a glacier, an iceberg where they say 5% is above the water and 95% is below. We look at that 5% and think that that's the majority of it. All right. So we've set the stage here, and anybody who's in this industry knows once you get into it, the work is intense.
Yes.
Right? And even from a bookkeeping perspective, we hit every darn aspect of bookkeeping. We are a complicated people with a complicated industry. We really are.
We are.
So when you don't know that and you're getting in and you think it's the glamour view, and then you realize there's so much more, it can upset the apple cart of the work-life balance.
Yes, it can.
Tell me how yours got upset, and then let's talk about how you have put some things in place. You've kind of mentioned a little here and there. How did yours start how did it get upset, and when did you realize, okay, something's got to be done?
So we are really big in our household about balance. And I knew, and my husband knew when I started this business, that there was going to be a time period where I was going to be working a lot. And that was fine. Like that's a part of it. You can't kind of make this work part-time if you really want to make it go somewhere. So I knew that I was going to be working a lot, but you cannot sustain 7 days a week, 10 p.m. at night for too long before it starts to affect you physically, emotionally. I was crying. I'm not a crier, although I did already cry in this podcast, but I'm really not. I'm not an overly emotional, person. I'm pretty just logical and even keeled most of the time. I am intense though. But I started to have emotional breakdowns that was not normal for me. And I thought, gosh, I'm not sleeping because I'm getting up thinking about, oh my gosh, tomorrow. And most of the things that I was either worried about or feeling the weight about weren't necessarily clients yelling at me, which I know that can happen too. And it hasn't happened to me yet, but I do hear about it. It was the internal, oh my gosh, okay, tomorrow I have to get all this invoicing done. We have to get all these purchases done. I have to go pick up that tile. My car is full of tile today. As we speak, I'm taking tile to a client. I'm doing a presentation this afternoon. Oh my gosh, that software is glitching. Now my printer's not working. Now I'm going to have to run up to Kinko's and print that proposal. My gosh, what in the heck? So it was like that for a long period. And then when the numbers aren't where I need them to be, or I shouldn't say where I need them to be, where I wanted them to be for the output that I was giving, I was like, yeah, no, that something has to give. And so I tried on my own to figure out how to make this happen. But I knew that I couldn't sustain the hours that I was working. And I also felt like in the early days, which was not like the first week, it was a while. Anytime someone called me and wanted to hire me, that I wanted to say yes to them. Didn't know when the next person was going to call. Even though I've had people consistently getting in touch with me, I thought, oh yes, well, that person was referred to me by one of my favorite clients. I need to take that job without asking any it was just kind of like, yep, they want me to do their family room. Let's do it. And so anytime someone called, I wanted to say yes, but then it was causing me to just go crazy and I couldn't take it anymore. So I don't remember where this came from, but I always kind of seek out information from other people. So from you, from peers, I'll go online, I'll start researching things, just trying to gather all the information to find out what's the best fit for me. And I saw something about time blocking. And I thought, what is this? What do I think about this? So for a period of time, I thought, gosh, my clients are working full time, most of them, both people in the home, and they can't take off work to meet with me for a consult at 3 p.m. or 10 a.m. in the morning when I'm working. So when can you meet with me? Just like, oh, 7 p.m. on Friday, 10 a.m. on Saturday, 3 p.m. on Sunday afternoon. Yep. That's when they need to meet with me because they're working. So I had this mentality of I need to be available to my clients in the evenings by text, email, phone, because I need this business to work. I'm going to do consults whenever it's convenient for them because, heck, I'm charging them a nice amount of money, and I want them to hire me. So there was a lot of that going on too. And I was basically making myself available when it was most convenient for the client. I was letting the business run me instead of running my business. And when I got to the point where I was like, why am I doing this? What has happened here? And it happened kind of without me realizing it. So it was over a
Yes.
period of time that I'm looking back and like, how many Sunday afternoon appointments have I done? Why am I missing dinner with my family to go to a client's home to go show them? Stop. I thought, no, something has to change here. So I was starting to pull my research in and I saw about time blocking and I thought, I'm going to try. And business was really good. It's good now too. But I thought, I don't have to say yes to everyone. And you and I talked about ideal client. That was a huge shift for me. But I thought, no, I'm not going to do evening appointments anymore. I'm just going to see what happens. So I started time blocking and I made this up. I decided I need dedicated time in my office to do design work, proposals, invoicing, all the administrative type things. And design is a part of that too, the creating. And then I need set days where I know I'm going to be doing consults. And I do quite a few of those. I thought because do a consult on this day and then plan to come back in the office. Oh, wait, now I need to stop by the towel store. And now my work didn't get done. And then I'm working at night again. So I thought, let me just try this out. And I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know if clients who are working full time, again, most of them, both, were going to say, okay, yeah, let's do a consult at 10. The minute I started doing that, I don't think, and I should go back and see how long it's been. It's been a while that I've been doing this. I'm not sure how to quantify because I really can't remember. It's been more than 6 months, I'll say, maybe even a year. I don't think that I've ever had one client tell me that they cannot accommodate a daytime consult.
Well, they're used to meeting the plumber during the day. They're
Right.
used to meeting.
But in my mind, I thought, oh my gosh, I have to. So for me, I decided Monday and Wednesdays were going to be my consult availability day. I don't always do them, and I would have 2 different time slots because Atlanta traffic is terrible. And I don't want to
The
be
one morning and one after lunch.
right. And I said, I have a 10 or 10:30 slot on this day, and I have a 1 or 1:30 slot in the afternoon. Or the other thing was, I was like, oh gosh, they need me right now. They're moving into their house. I need to accommodate that. I need to bend over backwards and mess up my whole family's schedule because they're buying a house and they need me by this date. Well, now if I'm not able to fit someone in and it's going to mess up my rhythm of being productive with clients that I already have on the books, I'll say my first available appointment is this day. Sometimes that's 2 weeks out and sometimes that's 6 weeks out. And if the 6-week out client says, oh gosh, that's really not as soon as I wanted, I don't have a problem. I shouldn't say a problem, but I will say to them, I totally understand if you need something sooner. That is my first available. I can certainly call you if someone cancels. but I don't waver from that. And most of the time they will wait. Or if they don't, I'm okay with it, because my sanity in my flow and the way that we're using our processes in the business is worth more than having that extra consult.
Right. And I know that many of us in this industry, and even in my industry, I'm still in interiors, but moving over into a service-based of advising and consulting and coaching. We want to serve, we want to help, solve their problem. And, I do the same thing. Mondays and Wednesdays are my coaching days, and Thursdays are podcast days. Mine's changed. I did a podcast on Luann's webinar back in 2016, 17, maybe early 17, on time chunking. And I'll link that for anybody who wants to know more about that. I'll link that. I remember one of the things that we did at the retreat, that you came to my one-on-one designers retreat that we had. And one of the things I asked you to do was to think about this idea of balance. Remember, and we talked about being centered, as well as what we would consider balance, because balance kind of lends itself to an equal, and it's not really always equal. And one of the things I asked you to do was tell me, what is it that makes you feel calm or centered in your work and life? And we talked about, like, maybe it's having dinner with the family. Okay, how many nights a week do you need to have dinner with the family? Maybe it's, I want to be with my girlfriends or hang out with my guy friends. Okay, cool. How often do you need to do that? So if you were to put that on your schedule, like once a week or once a month, whatever that need is, I need date night. How often do you want to go on date night? If we start building those into our schedule first, and then we built our work around it. Do you remember that? Mm-hmm. And I remember the ahas that went around the table, because as entrepreneurs who own these businesses, if Parkinson's law shows up, and Parkinson's law every time, because Parkinson's law says that you will expand or contract to the resources you have available. So if you don't have your calendar blocked with the things that keep you, I'm going to do air quotes here for those who can't see me, balanced and centered, dinner with the family, or just a hard stop for your sanity, whatever it is, if you don't put it on the calendar and block it, Parkinson's law says the work that you're in, you're going to creep past that and keep going, because you're going to keep doing, I'll do one more thing on the list. I'll do one more thing on the list. And you look up and it's 10 o'clock and the kids have gone to bed and you've missed the family. Even in my life, because I travel to speak and to teach. And my husband and I talked about it, because there were times where I was gone 2 and 3 weeks out of the month. And that got to be too much for me and for him. I mean, we were way out of balance. And it was just the way that it hit. It still hits that way on occasion, like where it's the end of March and the beginning of April and I was gone. But by and large, we've tried to set it up that I do those things once a month. Here, or 1 week a month. I travel, the rest I don't. When my sons were in high school, I made a deal that any teaching or anything I did, I had to be home by noon on Friday, because they were on the football field on Friday night, and I was not missing another Friday night football game, because I have a very short amount of time. And like now they're grown, they're out of the house. It doesn't matter. I could be gone on a Friday night, but not during that time. And so I think part of this whole work-life balance and this centeredness that we all keep talking about is because we're not identifying what makes us feel balanced and centered, and then giving it space and weight on the calendar so that it becomes the hard stop that makes us stop something else. Then when we have to do that, we go back and look at the activities that we would have probably kept doing and said, maybe I should hire somebody to do that. Maybe I could do it a different way. Is there a more efficient way to do it? Or can I time block it? I mean, there's so many other ways that we can then go look at how do I get that accomplished and still be able to do the things that keep me in front of my, the people that I love. And I hear from designers a lot, well, seriously, because I work with all of you guys, but that they struggle with friendships. Like they're not within the industry, but they struggle with maintaining their girlfriend friendships, because work takes up such a huge amount as an entrepreneur. And then if you have a family that you're spending time with, there's not a lot of overflow for building all these extra relationships unless you are extremely intentional about it. Did you find that to be the case for you?
I would say yes. One of the struggles for me since I started this is friendships with people who don't own their own business. This business, when it takes over, I want to have a conversation with my friend about, oh, this happened this week. And so there was some adjusting with some friendships because they just can't relate. They just can't relate. And so I had to realize and recognize that those conversations and struggles or frustrations, I need to have those conversations with my peers because they can relate. And they're like, girl, I get you. I just was talking to a designer friend yesterday and I was like, she's like, oh my gosh, I'm so frustrated. This happened this week. And I'm like, oh gosh, that's happened to me. That feels good. You don't feel alone. So I went through a period when I had not met other designers who I built a relationship with, where I felt very lonely because I wanted to be able to share what was going on in my life. And so much of my life was building this business because it was kind of out of control or all consuming, that I felt alone because I couldn't. I had an expectation that they would be able to relate, or wasn't even an expectation. I just wanted to be able to talk freely about what was going on with me. And although they would sit there and listen to me, they just had no way to understand or relate. And so it made me feel lonely.
Right.
And so once I started, which you played a part in that as well, and started, getting out of my house, out from behind the spreadsheet, and meeting some other people in the field who really do understand the mechanics that are required in this business and some of the challenges and frustrations and the hard things, then my other friend group, that's just for social.
And you have to be fun friends again.
Fun. And we're talking about our families and things like that. But when I didn't have an outlet to, other than my poor husband, who just sits there and listens and tries to understand as well, but when you have that camaraderie, I would say that was key for me. And that's a recent thing. That's within the last year or so that I have built some friendships with people who I feel like can relate. So that's been huge for me. And I don't even know if I answered your question, but that kind of came to my mind of
it does.
Friendships.
And we have, I say this all the time, I've got different friends for different things.
Yes.
I've got the friend that I know that if I called and said, hey girl, I want to go shopping, she'd be on it. I've got my foodie friends. I know they're going to go out and try the new restaurants and enjoy those with me. I've got my friends that own their own business that we can talk about business. I've got my prayer group, the women that do my spiritual life with me and pray for me. So I've got different friends that feel different needs and that I feel different needs for them. Yes. And it's nice when I'm not having to lay a weight on them that they can't carry.
Yes.
And so it just changes.
Yeah.
Right. And we've all been on probably both sides of that.
Yes, for sure.
And so I think it's fair to say there's usually not one person who can solve everything for us. So it's having our tribe, our support people of multiples that can help us do that. So your business has grown, you're in a good place, you're growing, you've had something exciting that's getting ready to happen. And it may come out before this airs, or it may come out right before. If it comes out before it airs, I'll link it. But if you tell us about it.
Okay, so at the early part of last year, so it's almost been a year, which is crazy also, I was contacted by a production company for HGTV. It was an email. I wasn't sure that it was real. I thought, oh, what is this? A lot of things come through. And I thought, so I was busy working, doing something. And I sent it to my husband. I said, well, you just go see if you think this is legit. And I really, that's all that came through my mind. Will you just see? I don't even know what this is. And he texted me back. He was actually upstairs working. He texted me back downstairs and he was like, I think it is. This company that sent it, I think it's real. And I thought, what? So I wrote them back and it just said, we're looking for a designer for a kitchen renovation in Decatur and wanting to know if you're interested. And it was a production company for HGTV. And I thought, okay. So I wrote him back. I wasn't really expecting a response even though he found the company. And so I said, yes, I would be interested in hearing about it. Immediately wrote me back, okay, great. Can we jump on a call and talk about it? Sure. So I get on the call, and then from that moment on, it was very fast paced. They said, here's the deal. We're behind the schedule and production time. It's for the show House Hunters renovation. We already have the homeowners selected. We're ready to get rolling. If you're interested in doing this, I'm going to send you the contract. And I thought, what is happening right now?
I remember
So
that. It was just like a whirlwind.
and I sent an email to you, and I sent an email to my best friend, and I was like, I don't know what's going on right now. I don't know. I don't even know what to think. I don't know. Should I do it? Should I not do it? So they sent over the contract. It was 1,000,000 pages long. We own you, whatever, not exactly, but sort of. And I thought, oh my gosh, should I do this? I don't know. I mean, so anyway, I decided to do it, and it started immediately. So within 2 days of receiving that initial email, where I wasn't even sure if it was real or not, we had a call. I signed the contract, had a call with the clients, our first call, and then I had to select the contractor, meet with the clients, and start on design plans immediately. So I would say within 3 days of getting that initial email, I was working on design plans for their kitchen. And it was a very quick turnaround. I was working late into the night, which is just a whole part of TV world, which is fine. And so I've taped for the show. We did the whole renovation, and it finished up. I'd have to go back. It feels like so long. March or April, I guess, of 2019, I believe, maybe. And it's going to air later this year. I don't have an air date yet. They're still working on final editing. So super exciting. Feels like it came out of the blue, but the production company found me online, and the homeowners checked out my website, and they said, we like the work that you have on your website. This is the deal. So I did it, and it was crazy. It was a wild ride, new experience. I didn't know what to expect, and it was just a lot.
It was a good experience for you. I mean, it was a lot.
It was a lot, but I'm not afraid of hard work. So that was fine. It was just, I didn't know what to expect. And I just thought, okay, I'm going to do this thing. And so it was good. So it's going to air soon. I don't have a date right now, but
sometime by the end of 19. And as soon as it comes out, we'll put a link in the show notes so everybody can go see it. So Brenda, where can people find you online?
So we have a website, and it's called HouseLift Design. And sometimes that's hard to hear over audio, but basically I came up with the name thinking about giving people's homes a facelift. So a house lift. So HouseLiftDesign.com. We're also on social media at HouseLift Design on Facebook and Instagram. And we're around. So
great. Then we will make sure we'll have all that in the show notes as well.
Okay.
But Brenda, thank you so much for sharing this part of your journey. And, all of these things do affect our profitability, the profitability of how we even look at success, how we communicate, how we share, and the profitability of just the time with our family. I mean, all these things matter. And so your journey has been one that I'm absolutely certain that other people can relate to in some form or fashion. And I really appreciate you taking the time to share it with us today.
I've loved it. I feel so honored that you asked me.
You have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks again to Brenda for being on the podcast. Check out the HGTV House Hunter renovations to see her episode. We talked today about having support and not feeling alone and having that sounding board. And I would love to offer to be able to do that for you. My Designer's Inner Circle program was created just to fill that need. So check it out at www.scarletthreadconsulting.com and make sure to let me help you in your journey to profitability, because we all know it doesn't happen by accident.